Welcome to the Who's Left podcast, a show about Indiana politics, history, and culture from an unapologetically leftist perspective. My name is Scott Aaron Rogers, and I'm recording from Bloomington, where Indiana University began fall classes on Monday, and we continue our college theme in a way this week. For our last episode, I didn't venture far to find a guest, welcoming David McDonald, an IU professor and Bloomington chapter president of the AAUP, a union and membership association of faculty and other higher ed professionals that works to advance academic freedom and shared governance. We discussed how university administration, the state, and federal governments are collaborating to undermine those worthy goals. We talked about how the stifling of academic speech undermines the entire point of higher learning, depriving students of the full education they deserve. Just another way, the wealthy and powerful few running this country for the last several decades have extracted all of the value from our institutions, leaving the next generation with a reduced standard of living, few opportunities, and little hope. McDonald shared the perspective of a teacher, an academic. But what about his students? How does this generation navigate a rapidly changing and confusing world? One where they've never known life outside the swirling miasma of social media, where the safe and stable US led international order is collapsing all around, where the disastrous effects of man made climate change are just beginning to come into focus. With great difficulty, it turns out. Financial instability, job uncertainty, housing affordability, system failure, and the specter of a potentially unlivable planet are causing exceptionally high levels of anxiety, depression, loneliness, and isolation in teens and young adults. Reece Axel-Adams has not been immune to these struggles. The 21-year-old student at Earlham College is on medical leave for a second straight semester after dealing with a mental health crisis in January, but has been doing much better through therapy. And they've also found new purpose, offering a positive vision for the future that young Hoosiers can get behind. Reece is running for the Indiana State House of Representatives in District 53, challenging incumbent Republican Ethan Lawson in the area around Pendleton, Greenfield, and New Palestine. They join me for a conversation about a young career already full of activism, how Generation Z has been left to inherit a mess, and how that burden is weighing on their peers. Real quick, before we get to the interview, please consider supporting Who's Left with a paid subscription. This is an independent media project. I don't paywall content, and I don't rely on advertising. Only individuals like you keep this thing going. I refuse to gatekeep valuable information in the middle of a political crisis, even to my financial detriment. So please, if you find value in this work, go to whosleft.us and subscribe at the paid level. It's only $5 a month or $50 for a year to help me write more, research more, and organize more. Not ready for a long-term commitment? You can also make a one-time contribution on Cash App or Venmo. Links are in the show notes. Listen, me and my old body would like to spend less time on construction and more time constructing a better future for Indiana, but I need your financial support to do so. And if that doesn't work for your budget at this time, you can still help out by liking and sharing on social media, commenting, leaving reviews, providing feedback, and forwarding articles to your people. We are building a community of Hoosiers dedicated to making this state and its government work for all of us, not just the elite few. Please join us. Follow on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads at whosleft.us, and on Facebook, X, TikTok, Mastodon, and YouTube at Who's Left. Tell the others. Let's build a radically democratic Indiana together. Thanks again. Now, here is my conversation with Reece Axel-Adams. Reece Axel-Adams, welcome to the Who's Left podcast.
Hello, Scott. Well, glad to
Pleased
be
to have
here.
you.
Sorry to all your listeners who are hearing a very scruffy voice. I've been traveling a lot across the state and my district, and my favorite pastime, aside from listening to NPR when my phone decides to die on me, is listening to music and singing along. And the line between singing and screaming sometimes gets blurred. So I don't have a voice today. Uh, Hopefully, the next time you lovely listeners of the Who's Left podcast hear me, uh, I will actually have my entire octave range back and not sound like a husk. So
All right. Well, yeah, we'll try and get you out of here.
yes, yes,
Unfortunately, with this being an interview, yeah, you're gonna wind up doing most of the talking, I think.
yeah.
But
Well,
I'll try and spot you here.
yeah, well, let's see. This is the second interview of the week. I talked with Axios, Erica Heron out of the Indianapolis branch of the Axios, which was started just a couple years ago. She actually led that. Actually, for my very first, my inaugural interview, which with the PAL item, the Palladium item, which is Richmond's very, 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 very small newspaper. They have one reporter. I feel bad for him. He's a wonderful guy, but that man does not get a break. They have one reporter, I think one editor, and like a publisher, maybe a couple support staff. And we ended up talking for 2 hours. You're done.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So I was going to say, don't let that mature, gravelly voice fool you. Like Reese here is, just a wee
I'm
one,
21.
just a kid. How about you're
I
21
am.
years old?
I'm a baby when it comes to being an adult, and especially a baby when I'm a sperm when it comes to being in the political. Amongst those octogenarians and septuagenarians, I'm still a little sperm just looking for that egg. Yeah,
There,
so
yeah.
big introductions. I'm Reece Axel-Adams. I'm your Democratic candidate, or a Democratic candidate for now. I'm hoping to avoid a primary for Indiana State House District 53, which covers the downtown Pendleton area and like sort of maybe 2 or 3 miles outside downtown, all the way down to the New Powell County line of Hancock County. So yeah, I serve South. I'll be serving South Madison and Hancock, most of Hancock County, like about 80% of Hancock County. Um, as you mentioned, and as I joked, I'm only 21. I was born in 2003. My birthday's little less than 2 months away. I'm an October birthday, so if I win, I'll be, let's see, 23 taking that seat, which I think I haven't done any fact checking, would make me the youngest person ever elected to the state house, and also the first Gen Zer elected.
Yeah, so you joked about just being a baby when it comes to politics,
Half joking, half serious. In
but,
all honesty, yeah, look,
yeah,
I won't. This isn't a joke here. I know I joke a lot, and that's who I am. I'm a very lighthearted person. Um, I genuinely speaking, I've noticed that unless it's like advertised to young people, that's not the word I was looking for.
yeah, it's like it's
Forgive me.
geared
It's
toward
it's
young
seven
people.
o'clock
Yeah,
at night. Yeah, I bring down the median age in the room, especially if we're talking politics, by at least 20, if not 30 to 40 years, because we have. I mean, look, the last three presidents, Biden, Trump, or Trump, Biden, Trump, have been what septuagenarians.
yeah,
Have
octogenarians.
been
Yeah,
octogenarians. Yeah, well, I don't remember. Biden was 80. I think Trump turned 80 in office this time around. Um,
yeah. Well, no, one thing I did want to ask you about because we were joking about your gravelly voice, which is shot, but do not be confused because you are just a young one. But despite your youth, you actually have been politically engaged for quite some time. Yeah?
um, my roots are in sort of community advocacy, specifically student advocacy, and sort of, I guess, going along with that, grassroots organizing slash advocacy. Um, I started my first foray into this was end of junior year when my high school told a bunch of or a couple of the teachers to take down the pride flags in the classroom.
Mm,
That resulted in obviously a lot of hurt feelings amongst the LGBTQ students. Um, I talked with a lot of people in the administration. Unfortunately, nothing really got done. And then the following year, during my senior year, I and a couple of my other friends who have been doing some stuff with advocacy and LGBTQ stuff at the school, um, restarted our school's Gay Straight Alliance, GSA for shorthand, which we
yeah,
use, um, and so we did all the stuff to get a room, everything, uh, meetings and whatnot okayed by admin. The only holdup um, was they didn't want us. They weren't gonna recognize us as an actual student group because GSAs by design are student run
yeah,
rather than faculty run. Um, there's obviously your faculty advisor like any student club would have,
sure.
but it's all student run, all their programming and whatnot, and so the school and the administration pointed to that fact as why they couldn't recognize us as a full-on school sponsored club because
Yeah,
we were student run. And we were like, wait a second, that runs afoul of the Equal Access Act, which, fun fact for your listeners who aren't uh, policy and law nerds like I am, uh, it was an act signed in by the Nixon or Reagan. I think it was Nixon. I'll put my money on Nixon administration, um, to support and protect prayer clubs
yeah, yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
schools, protect them from religious discrimination. And now in the 21st century and like the 1990s, it has been the piece of legislation and law and court precedent from the resulting court cases that has protected and propped up and given equal access to gay straight alliances across the nation. So I just like that little bit of Nixon, the horribly
Irony.
corrupt Republican, racist, homophobic president, signing into a piece of legislation protecting school club or school prayer clubs being now used to protect gay clubs. But so yeah, so with the help of the ACLU of Indiana, we filed a lawsuit in federal court with the Southern District of Indiana. I think that's our jurisdiction. Judge Sweeney the Third was our judge assigned to the case. He's a federal judge appointed by Trump in his first term. Uh, and so we filed our lawsuit in like September, October. Um, did all the pre-trial stuff, the sitting for deposition, the fact finding, I was deposed by their lawyers. I think we ended up deposing a couple of our witnesses from their side, and then like a week or so before Christmas, we got a call from our lawyer that the judge had issued a temporary restraining order, or no, not a temporary restraining order, sorry, a preliminary injunction siding with us. For non-law nerds, a preliminary injunction is basically kind of the civil version of a restraining order. It's something that's granted necessarily before things go to actually the courtroom or the judge's chambers. It's just we've submitted all the evidence and all the we've both sides have submitted their arguments and their depositions, and the judge has looked over it before deciding, before setting a court date, and it's basically been like, okay, there seems to be, from what I have right now, enough evidence that even if we don't go to court, I'm pretty confident in siding with in making this decision. We can go to court if you want, I will impanel a jury or I'll make the decision myself. But on the evidence I have right now in front of me that you guys have submitted, I find for, in our case, the plaintiffs. Um, so we got a victory. It was a very short-lived victory. I got to celebrate it through the break, um, until we heard back from the administration that, and they said, all right, we'll follow the judge's orders. We won't let any club advertise. We'll What we're gonna do instead, because we've got the bulletin boards in our stairwells, we've got a bulletin boards in the hallways, we've got the we Pendleton's got like a world renowned um, broadcast station, 91.7 WEEM. We've no joke, we've like won national high school broadcasting awards and
Yeah.
stuff, and I think even like international ones. And so like every day, at the end of the day, there'd be um, an announcement that some clubs would use to promote, and so they were like, all right, you sued us and we lost. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take down all of the advertisements. We're no longer gonna use Weem to promote, upcoming events or anything. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a spreadsheet in Google Doc or in Google Sheets with the club, the contact info, the times they meet, where they meet, what, et cetera, and that's the extent of all of our clubs advertising. So we called them out on their bullshit. We sued them for their bullshit, and in response to losing on their bullshit, they were like, "We'll do more bullshit, and we'll go real draconian."
Yeah, well, now nobody can have any fun.
That was the time when a lot of the people, especially a lot of the more like people I knew, were really just starting to check out. We were so close to graduation. We had other things on our plates, but there was from one group in particular. We got, not, I don't want to say hate, but like it was the, now we can't, like, fuck you, you've damned us all. Like,
You
you were
you
trying to get a
you
lifeboat. You
we would have had a good time if it wasn't for you meddlesome
Yeah,
queers. Yeah,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. We were all on the Titanic, and you guys were trying. You sued for a lifeboat. You got, and the captain said, "Well, all right, I'll just destroy all the lifeboats because I have to give the gays a life." So so there was a little bit of that. That's changed now from what I've heard, especially amongst a lot of the younger people who like, I I look queer. My hair, I've had dyed hair for like 5 years now. Um, I dress I dress queer a lot, especially back in high school. I had the flannel and jeans phase with a t-shirt. I had that whole phase. Um, I can also pass really well. Um, you know, I can go with a whole bunch of libertarian guys, grab drinks, and we can talk about women and damn women and cars and the weather. Like, I can shoot the shit with conservative and libertarian people, and but like, I also look how I do. But I never noticed that I got bullied for that, and so like, it was kind of that Indiana niceness of, I might not like you, I might hate you, you might make me uncomfortable. I'm just not gonna say anything, which I liked. Um, so that was my foyer into the advocacy. That advocacy foyer then springboarded me into the actual campaign realm. I helped run a political action committee for a couple school board candidates that ended up winning in 2022, I
Oh,
think.
wow, okay.
And then last year, my big claim to fame last year is I ran uh, the state senate campaign for Suzanne Fortenberry. She's in the Greenfield area, or Greenwood area. Sorry, too many greens in Indiana.
A lot of green in
Um,
Indiana, yeah.
Yeah, and so I spent a year as her campaign manager. We ended up losing to Cindy Carrasco, um, but yeah, so
good
So
experience, though, yeah?
I, despite being a youngin, I've got, 3, almost 4, going on 4 years now of campaign experience, plus another handful of years of grassroots and community advocacy. So yeah, I mean, and so I'm young. I've got a lot to learn. I'm working. Science tells us male brains aren't fully developed until like 25, 26.
Oh, at
I'm working
least.
on an Huh. Oh, yeah, and with my lifestyle choices, it's probably a little stunted, between you and me. But and so like I'm working off of an undeveloped brain. There's lots that older people can teach us, but like I don't know, man. Young people, we've got a lot to teach people. I mean, I've got 5 years myself of campaign management experience. I mean,
Well,
so I'll let you ask the next question.
sure. Well, you make good points though, in that okay, like yes, you have a lot of experience in politics for someone your age. But number one, you admit you've got things to learn, which is more than you can say for a lot of folks in politics who think they know everything. Like I think
Yeah.
humility is an important part of
Yeah,
the job that
you could have
not enough
held
people
no
have.
office before. Yeah, you could have held no office before, and yet you're a 50-year-old businessman who, well, we'll take Todd Young, for example, who, or not Todd Young, Mike Braun, for example. He's been in politics, right? He was a either state senator or
He was
state
he was a
house.
state
I
rep,
can't
and then
remember.
yeah, he made his way up through
Yeah,
the.
I know he was Jasper County School Board, and so like yeah, he climbed the rungs, like right, like he didn't just jump to be president like Donald Trump did. His job, he's the boss and owns a fucking storage unit company. I
Well,
think it's
he's
which one
he's
is
car
it? State?
parts.
Is
Jefferson
it?
Shreve is the
Yeah,
storage
is
units. Yes.
oh okay, okay, okay. That's right. Forgive me.
Yes,
Too
get
many
get
rich white
get your
businessmen who
multimillionaire,
jump in.
Indiana politician
Yeah,
straight,
get my
man, yeah.
multimillionaire bingo list straight. I'm sorry. I should work on that and study those lists. But yeah, so regardless, my diatribe still works with car parts. I don't know. Is it like a auto shop? Is it a manufacturer? What is
I
Ron's
wanna
money?
say, like, import of, like, auto parts mostly, components and stuff,
Right. But I mean,
well,
I'll
stuff from
well,
China.
I'll do Jefferson Shreve because I think being the owner of a storage unit company is a bit better for this data. But like storage units here, you literally pay you to store their stuff. You buy what, like you spend what, like 40 grand if even on an acre or two of land, another 150 for a contractor and a construction crew to build those really long half mile long, mile
They're
long storage
everywhere, and like, how do people have this much shit? Like, don't get me wrong, I've got a lot of
hoarders.
shit, man. My garage is getting to the
Well,
point where it's time
it
to do
well,
something about it, but
like you were making millions upon millions a year just sitting on your ass, taking land that could be a Starbucks, could be a gas station. Well, gas station's complicated because you poison the
well, it's
land,
just
or a
could be
farm,
could be apartments, people could
or a
live there,
house,
yeah, it could be
could be a
affordable
barber
housing.
shop, could be an apartment, could be rent controlled house. Yeah, anything. And instead, you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on selling sublet space for people to hold their junk. But like going back to my original point, these old people, old white rich people, millionaires who are just import exports of auto parts. What do you have to do? You've got to make your connections in China. Talk to them once a month to make sure your production flow is still good. You don't have to do much though. And when those are the sort of people that are holding the reins of power and are making policy decisions, of course their policy decisions are going to be, well, uh new tax law actually, um, storage unit companies can now claim 50% of their land, and the assets on their land is tax deductible. And so, if we get young people, if we get people who actually have a stake in the game in those rooms, then we have laws that are, well, we will do a $500 tax abatement for every uh, bedroom in a house up to 5 bedrooms, and a $200 tax and water abatement for every bathroom up to three in a house. That actually helps my neighbors and myself. Not, yep, half of a storage unit's property and their assets can be tax deductible.
Yeah, not to mention, like, you know when the law is gonna take effect, so you can, like, trade based on that, and
Yeah, yeah. If you're Nancy Pelosi with your stock portfolio, you can let your broker know that Indiana's easing their restrictions on foreign and out of state um, farming companies buying land, and so you can tell your broker, well, Indiana Land Corporation is about to get a huge bust, and then boom, or boom, and then bust. So at on Tuesday, make sure you buy up a bunch of shares when they're really cheap, and then on Thursday, make sure at the height of trading to sell all of them for
Mhm.
a $500,000 profit. You'll get 75 as your commission. I'll pocket the rest. And then us young people who don't have that $100,000 to invest in the stock market are like, wait, the fuck? You're in a position of power where you probably knew that Indiana agriculture or farming or whatever company I made up was about to get folded into big daddy China farming. So you knew when to play the stock markets.
Right.
Us poor people, I own a part of Indiana agriculture. I own 5 shares. My those 5 shares, I bought at $10 a share, and now I can sell them at 4 because Big Daddy China agriculture is all of a sudden infusing a whole bunch, and they're even talking about taking it private.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, well, now my $50 shares, which after 40 years could have appreciated into a small little goose egg that I could have spent a year or two living off of, is all of a sudden worth pennies for what I bought it for. And it's like, well, screw me then. Thanks.
So much about the political class and the ownership class and the folks that already have wealth and power and, use that wealth and power to accrue more wealth
Yeah.
and power,
I
um,
mean,
is that they're locking in their
look,
gains,
one
right?
final, yeah,
And
yeah. One final comment on that. Like, I mean, I think it's Trump or Vance or somebody in the administration. They've been talking about how America is back in the Gilded Age, right? Like, I mean, fuck, our White House looks it's gilded in gold now with
yeah,
fucking 24 karat eagles.
it's chintzy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nazi Germany called. They would like their eagle statues back. I know you filed off the swastikas
Hmm.
and replaced them with crosses, but they still want them. Um, and if you're a student of history like I am, the Gilded Age was run by the robber barons.
Yeah, it was only gilded for a
The
few.
the oh, this is
Rockefellers and
embarrassing because
the
we've got,
Carnegie and
yes,
yeah.
we've got the Carnegie. Yeah, that was embarrassing because our district's alternative learning center is the repurposed Carnegie building slash library downtown. So that was a little embarrassing. But like, yeah, literally these people who are building transatlantic railways were raking in millions of dollars, while the poor Chinese immigrant building those railways was getting a penny on the uh, on the nickel. Just like with Make America Great Again, you have to ask yourself, when it comes to the 21st century Gilded Age, who is it for?
Yep. Yep.
Is it for us? Is it for Scott and Reese? Is it for Susan, who lives in the slums of Anderson, who can barely make rent? Or is it for Eli Lilly and Co.
Right.
raking in millions of dollars? So I don't know if you. So I'm a data guy, right? Like, you give me a bunch of data, you give me numbers, and I'm a happy boy. I will be set for an afternoon. I've always known that the median income in Indiana is about $78,000.
Right.
I learned this the other day, and this shocked me, and this will shock you, and I'm sure it will shock your viewers unless they also know this. You take out so they the way that data is done, it's household
Right.
income,
Yep.
not per person, because household's easier. If you take out the top 3 earners or households, one of which being the family who owns Eli Lilly,
Yeah.
you take out the top 3 earners, that median income drops all the way down to under $40,000 a year.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That is the case in a whole lot of places. It turns out if you take
Yeah.
away the top, it's so our wealth is so skewed to having so few people on the
Oh,
top own
I
everything that if you
know. I
remove
mean,
them,
look,
yeah, the average is next to
we
nothing.
we're told, right, that we live in the most prosperous nation in the US, and the numbers or sorry, the most prosperous nation in the world, right? The numbers show it. The numbers don't lie. We have the highest GDP of any developed nation. We have some of the highest import and exports. We are, for all intents and purposes, for now, still the world's superpower.
Yep.
There is no reason, I will say it again, no reason for anybody, age, race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, identity, where you live, what zip code you live in, what library you visit, if anything, to be struggling for survival. You should not have to worry about if you have to if you're going to go hungry today because your kids need to eat, or if you're going to be able to make that car payment because you got to get to work. It's unacceptable that in the wealthiest nation in the world of any time, save for, like, I don't know, Ibn Battuta of, what century, 5th or 6th century, you know, there's no reason that we have people living on the streets, that we have people begging for food, that we have people going through trash cans to get scraps, to get our table scraps. There's no reason. And every time the people in power, the people with money tell us, here's this new solution for homelessness. What we're going to do is we're going to clear all the encampments, make the places where the encampments have been propagated at truly uninhabitable. And it's like, okay, I get that homeless encampments and squalors in your city aren't good looks. I believe me, I would much rather see a park full of dogs and families enjoying their weekend, playing and being a family, than a bunch of homeless camps, because there are so many things, not only dangers, like physical dangers, but like mental dangers
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
biological dangers in terms of like disease that's spread through homeless encampments. But fucking chopping down trees and deforesting an entire park so that, like, homeless people don't have a place to, like, get out of the heat, that's just cruel. I forget I think it's called hostile agriculture or architecture,
Yeah, yeah,
where it's
yeah.
like, the
The benches where
the
you can't lay
random
down on
bench,
them, and
and it's like, what are you doing? My voice is almost gone, so yeah. Any last questions that are just absolutely have to get out there?
I wanted to ask about we're talking about, the older generations that are they've hoarded all the resources, right? They've hoarded all the opportunity, really, and it's got to be difficult for someone your age uh, to see a positive vision of the future, and that's really got to have an
It weighs
effect on
on
your
you.
mental health, you know?
Yeah, it weighs on you a lot, especially especially when you deal with mental health problems yourself. I mean, God, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but and you might be able to pull them up real quickly, but it's an insane like 40 plus, maybe even a majority of young people in my age group, in millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha, suffer with mental health issues. And it's not just exclusive to those generations. I mean, we have people who grew up back when the only mental health diagnosis was crazy, and the only real solution was locking them in the loony bin for the
Right.
rest of their lives in a straitjacket. My grandfather, the theology professor at Purdue, um, he was one of those people. He took his life when my dad was still in high school. I never knew him. He was suffering back when he was he was. I don't know if you're a Panic at the Disco person. That's probably a little bit out of your uh, age
I am
range, but
just a little too old for Panic at the Disco.
okay, yeah. I had a panic phase as most, uh, queer youth do in high school, and one of their songs, which was absolutely my favorite, was, "Crazy Equals Genius." Like, there's a very fine line between crazy and genius, and I think my grandfather was one of those people. Unfortunate and so, he was hospitalized a couple times, for it, but unfortunately that was in like the 80s and 90s, and I'm sure probably the 70s and 60s too when he was dealing with that, especially as a young male. I was, like I said, the
Yeah.
era where you were diagnosed as crazy and locked up in a loony bin. But yeah, armchair psychology. My mom thinks he probably had bipolar, which is one of the reasons why I'm at a heightened risk for bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
Um, and so like, look, there's a lot that I hate about growing up in the 21st century, and I could do an entire episode on that too. I'm glad at the end of the day, I'm glad that I was born in this century where, I've got ADHD, I've got depression, clinical depression, suicidal ideations. I've probably got like type C OCD and maybe bipolar disorder or some other mental, and like I'm glad I count my lucky stars that I was born in the 21st century where we actually have professionals who are specifically trained and experienced in these realms, and where the diagnosis isn't just or the diagnosement and treatment plan isn't just crazy. We lock you away from society for the rest of your life, because instead of talking to you and running for state house, I would be I would be in an insane asylum, or at the very least relegated to like the fringes of society. Um, and so yeah, so I'm beyond grateful for that. We still have leagues to go in mental health here in America,
Sure.
especially, and you can probably attest to this, especially amongst men.
For
You know,
sure.
I don't know how old you are, and you don't have to ruin the surprise for me, but like, you were born in the latter half of the 19th century and raised there,
Hey, whoa, whoa,
where
whoa,
you
whoa.
were taught
20th
that,
century, man. I'm not that old.
Okay, sorry. Oh, sorry, sorry. That was a brain fart of mine. I do apologize. Um,
My daughter
but
accuses me of having been born in the 19th century.
yeah, well, kids, right? Um, and right, like, and so you were born in the era of men being men, and like, if you cried, you were a pussy, and like, Emotions, what are those? The only emotions men know is strong, sexual, happy, because we're men.
You get
And
you
so,
get
like,
anger
there's
or, yeah, that's it. You get,
yeah,
I'm okay,
anger
you're fine,
and
or
your
I'm angry,
medicine.
or I'm yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and your medicine's a bourbon, a bottle of bourbon.
yep,
My medicine's now my medicine's now Prozac and Vyvanse. But, like, and so there are lots of people, especially a lot of older people, who are suffering from undiagnosed mental health issues. And so it's like, you know, I've got like 3 core things of my campaign, and then I'll shut up because my voice is
you're
the
barely
future.
hanging on, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the future. Because right, like every day is a new day. Every day is a new day venture into the future. We've got young people. Those two go hand in hand. Without young people, there is no future, and without the future, there is no young people. And then mental health, because and all 3 of those go hand in hand.
They really do.
You know, I like I told you at the start of this. You know, I suffered a really bad mental health crisis in January. I was in the ER for a day. I joined an IOP program, an intensive outpatient program. Um, got an actual psychiatrist to do my med management instead of just my PCP. Um, I felt like a guinea pig for the last 5 years.
Yeah,
I I'm tired of that. Um, and I know there are a lot of people my age, younger, older, not even born yet, who will face this. And I know that there are a lot of men my age who will face this, who will be scared, regardless of how good their support network is and their community is, who will be scared of admitting that they have mental health issues because their dad, their granddad, their podcasters, their influencers, whatever, told them that crying is for pussies. And so those 3 things, the future, youth, and mental health, especially youth mental health, and especially men's mental health, are, are like the cornerstones of my campaign. And you know, we don't have time to get into policy, obviously, because we'd be on for another 2 hours. But like, there are so many policy positions that not only can cut off that head, the head before mental health rears its ugly head,
yeah, yeah.
but can help people in the grips of mental health struggles. I mean, hell, I so first time I ever had a mental health crisis 5 years ago around COVID. I just got broken up with a longtime partner. Um, I told one of my friends I was gonna kill myself. I was thinking about it. They called the school. The school called my parents, and the school also called the police. 45 15 minutes after I had texted that, my parents come into my room in tears. And then, you know, an hour later or something, the cops come. I have a wellness check done. I go down to Saxony, the ER room, spend the or no, community health, community north, spend the day there, you know, get situated with a caseworker, therapist, whatever, doctors. Um but I did have 2 cops who were armed, who had they weren't wearing their vests, but they were in full regalia. They had
Yeah.
their pistols, they had their tasers, their radios, their pepper spray. Um, I'm white. I was too broken to be like a threat. I was, you know, the biggest threat was, or the biggest worry for me was getting out of the bed because I was just curled in the wall, right, facing the wall. Um, and so like I will give props to everybody, to all the first responders and all of the mental health professionals and whatnot who assisted me that day. But like, I don't know, if I was black or brown and I was like in a full psychosis state where I really wasn't in control, like, would they have felt the need to unholster those pistols or those tasers? Would I have just ended up spending a day in the ER? Granted, this was around COVID, and so like, you know, hospitals were all about seating COVID patients first, and you know, mental health had to take a back seat because
while important, it is
Yeah.
a, a symptom that can be done, that can be helped virtually and whatnot. So like, I wasn't hospitalized for any amount of time aside from the what, like 8 to 12 hours I spent in the ER. But like, what would have happened? I do ask myself that from time to time. What would have happened if this was a different situation?
And just it's
Or
not a good use of our resources to be sending those guys on that kind of mission. Like
no,
that's not what they're for. We
no,
need to save the dudes with
and
guns
and
for
if
dudes
we
with guns shit.
yeah, and if we absolutely, and if we like also want to like just pull back from the policy positions and the policy impacts, like I would not be speaking here today, Scott, with you and with your audience if it weren't for the community I had and my family and the network I had. um I'd probably be dead. I I've There have only been like 2 or 3 times where I've actively contemplated suicide. One where I had a plan. Um, and had it not been for, I hated my friend for at least the day and maybe a couple days for telling the school and telling my parents, because I thought, oh, this is just gonna pass. I might feel suicidal right now, but it'll just pass. Um, but like, yeah, I wouldn't be here today had it not been for the community and the support network that I had built and that I had built up over the years. And so like I'll leave. I've got to go. My voice. I don't know how I'm speaking. I'll leave your audience with this one thing, because I can't speak anymore. If you are a person facing mental health issues, whether it's depression, anxiety, ADHD, autism, anything, talk to somebody, whether that's a therapist, a licensed therapist, a doctor, your parents, your friends, a trusted adult, anybody. Therapy's hard, it's expensive, but just like your body, you've got to go in, especially as a kid, you got to go in at least once a year for shots to make sure everything, your heart's pumping right, your lungs are working, your spleen's doing whatever the hell a spleen does. Don't know what a spleen does, but it does something. And if you neglect those things, that spleen, whatever function it does, that spleen, if it starts failing on you, you're gonna have some problems. And it could be going talking to a therapist. My mom, I've not adopted this language, but my mom loves to call her therapist her damn therapist, because she makes her realize things about herself and makes her
Yeah.
cry every therapy session. If you're, regardless of who you are, regardless of how old you are, regardless of how rich or how poor you are, regardless of if you've been told all your life you're a McGillicuddy, McGillicuddies don't have mental health issues, talk to a therapist,
Yeah.
talk to somebody,
Absolutely.
because I never thought I never thought that I'd be looking down or looking at the knife blade thinking that that was the best option for me. I never thought. I have a good life. I I wouldn't trade this life for anything. I've I mean, I already have the biggest honor, or I guess not honor depending on who you ask, but like I was born in America. I've already won the geography lottery,
Yep.
and I was born in Indiana. So I won like the state lottery, because all we've got to deal with is tornadoes. Um and I've got two loving parents and a wonderful group of friends and family. Never thought it could happen to me until I was in it. And with mental health, just like a broken limb, especially like a limb you use a lot, like a leg,
Mhm.
the long-term, permanent, unchanging damage can sometimes be done long before you actually realize that there's damage being done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely, Reese. I wanted to say thank you, and we'll come back to this conversation, and Yeah, continue this at another time. It's been good to talk to you, and yeah, just thank
Yeah.
you for
Yeah,
being
you too.
vulnerable. I think
You too.
that's
Of course, of course. Well, I mean, look, it's one thing being vulnerable just as a private citizen, right? Like if you and I were at a bar, you and I could probably, open our hearts a bit. But I think the really powerful thing is one, when somebody goes on record about it, and two, when it's somebody like not just a politician, but when it's somebody of power or
yeah,
an important media figurehead. Um, and I think when those sorts of people are vulnerable and are human, that makes a world of difference.
yeah,
Because your Aunt Sue telling you to talk to a therapist might not do much, but if you're listening to the Joe Rogan Experience and your favorite comedian comes on, and he spends 20 minutes of that podcast talking about his experiences of mental health issues and how he was hospitalized because he was about to kill himself, like that humanizes, and that can do so much more than your mother, brother, cousin, sister, whatever telling you these things. So yeah, I'm always willing to be vulnerable, because when we're vulnerable, not only can we grow, because steel sharpens steel, iron sharpens iron, but it also shows those people that they're not alone. And that above everything that I've gotten from not just talking to you, talking to other people, getting my message out there, and speaking on my mental health, that's the most important thing, is letting people know that they're not alone. Because when you're in that depth, when the darkness surrounds you, and like that light at the end of the tunnel is smaller than a pin's head, you need people. So yeah.
yeah. I want
Yeah.
to thank you for just for talking about these things. It is important that
Yeah.
we talk about
Yeah.
these things,
um
but for you, stop talking. Your voice is about shot. Go
my bed's
get
my
some
bed's
tea.
right over there. I'm going to roll out of my chair to the bathroom and then to the bed. So
All right, thanks, bye.
I'll talk to you later, Scott.
Once again, that was Reece Axel-Adams, student at Earlham College and candidate for Indiana State House District 53. Generation Z struggles with their mental health because the world is changing rapidly and multiple existential crises loom over them. But even more so because they have so little ability to do anything about it. It's like being trapped in a burning building. Decades of leadership have failed us again and again, hoarding wealth and opportunity, refusing to hand over the levers of power. A bountiful crop of intelligence, empathy, and understanding is withering on the vine, blocked from the sun by the last generation. Time has long since come to clear away the overgrowth and let new leaders blossom. Nurture them with knowledge, but let them show the way. Thanks for listening. Let me show you the way to Project Next Media Network's YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch streams, where I host Who's Left This Week, Indiana's most thorough Sunday morning news and politics talk show. Check it out live if you get a chance. It's a lot of fun if you can call following the news in this timeline fun. I bring together a diverse group of panelists from the Democratic Socialist left to never Trump conservatives, and we look at the week's headlines from around Indiana and beyond. We'll also take time to examine one big thing, a different deep dive every week. I hope to see you there in the comments, but if you can't make it live, the program will be available as a podcast Sunday afternoon. Thanks again to Reece for their time and willingness to be vulnerable with us, and I'll be vulnerable with you. I could really use your paid subscription at whosleft.us, where you'll find my entire archive. I rely solely on the generosity of kind patrons like you to make this information available for free to everybody. In addition to the website, you can find me on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads at whosleft.us, and on Facebook, X, TikTok, Mastodon, and YouTube at Who's Left. Direct message me at any of those sites with feedback, tips, ideas, and concerns, or email me at scott@whosleft.us. Finally, please forward the show to a friend and have them pass it on. Let's keep building this project and a truly democratic state, one conversation at a time. Until the next one, this has been the Who's Left podcast. I'm Scott Aaron Rogers. Love each other, Indiana.